When I was 15 years old, I met the love of my life. Of course, at the time, my parents didn't approve of him. Well, actually, they never approved of anything. I met him in my freshman year of high school. In a quick view of my school days, I have always been bullied by others. Anyway, I guess you can say he was like my Prince Charming in a shining armor that would come rescue me. He was just like a knight in those princess love stories. So freshman year has just begun, and on my very first day, I met my all-school year bully. She was as meanie gets. She purposely pushed me down the stairs, but luckily my Prince Charming caught me in time. That was how he and I first met. He was the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. He was indeed. And yes, he told her off. That was the first time anyone had ever stood up for me. It made my heart flutter. It turns out he was a junior at the time, and he so happened to be very popular among many girls in school. I wouldn't blame them. He is so handsome. Anyway, long story short, because of him, I wasn't bullied anymore. I felt so secure and protected by him. Every day with him made me feel special and human. He showed me love. Graduation came and I was sad. I knew we wouldn't see each other as much as we did before. Because of my strict parents, the only way to see each other was at school. Anyway, he was off to college, but that didn't stop him from seeing me. He comes every morning before school starts, and every evening after school hours, he will be outside waiting. Our love grew stronger and stronger with time. We dated for 6 years and 2 months. During those 6 years and 2 months, I was considered a rebel towards my parents and family. My parents said I would bring them shame for being in love. What do I care? I have love. That love ended sooner than I thought. I still remember that day clearly. On a rainy day, he and his family came over to my house and asked to marry me. That was the happiest day of my life. It took a lot of begging from me to my mother, but she finally gave in and begged my father. He said fine, but he cursed me and my boyfriend that we would live in tragedy. Little did I know that it was going to become true within a short time. When we left my house, I was so happy that I could finally breathe freely and be with the love of my life. Happiness came too soon and too good to be true. Within the blink of an eye, tragedy occurred. We had gotten into an accident in the dark rain. Our car had flipped over. I'm not sure how long it was that we had all blacked out, but I remember waking up to see him covering me all bloody. He said, "Baby, it's okay. I'm right here. You'll be just fine. You'll be fine. I'm here." I felt a sharp pain on my right leg, and when I turned to look, I could see people rushing to our car and all these lights flashing. I looked back at him and said, "What happened?" He said, "You'll be all right." Suddenly, I felt someone pulling me away from him, and I started crying because I didn't want to be away from him. As they pulled me out, I was still holding onto his hand, pulling it as I was being pulled. I saw him smiling and slowly closing his eyes. As they rushed to the ambulance, I saw a white glowing figure in the rain standing by the car. Right then, my heart dropped. I screamed out, "Please don't take him from me, please." The next thing I remember is waking up at the hospital. A white empty room with just the monitor beeping. Finally, a nurse and a doctor came in. They flashed a little light into my eyes. The first thing I said was, "Where is he?" The only thing that says my parents are outside. My parents arrived as they were leaving. My mom had tears in her eyes, and my dad, well, let's just say he had the nerve to ask if I was okay. My mom finally told me that he didn't make it. The glass window had broken and a huge piece stabbed him in the back of the head as he fell on top of it. They said that he died when they arrived at the scene. It was impossible. My heart felt like a million stakes had stabbed me and ripped my heart out. I couldn't believe it. His mom said his dad and mom are well and alive. Everyone made it except him. I tried getting out of bed to find him, only to find out my right foot was paralyzed. I don't know how or why, but I couldn't get it to move. I was so frustrated. I didn't even get to see him at all. On the day of his funeral, I had to threaten my father with his own rifle that I was going to shoot him if he didn't let me go. Thankfully, my little brother, who was 1 year younger, drove me there. Seeing him in the casket broke my heart and killed reality for me. I stayed with him by his side until burial. The day they buried him was the day my heart too was buried. My father called the cops and had me arrested for attempted murder. I hated my father even more. I was locked away for a while. During the time that I was locked away, my husband came to visit me occasionally. You might think that I was crazy, but I wasn't. He had told me that he loved me and that he would always love me. But he can't go reborn without me because we are soulmates. He said he'd wait for me by the light. I made a promise to him that I would never love anyone but him, and I would wait until that day when I could go with him. When I came out, the first person I wanted to see was my father. He seemed a little shaky seeing me, but I told him that I'd forgive him. My little brother rented an apartment for me. I stayed there, and I will have to admit, during the times I was locked away, I attempted suicide many times, but my husband would always come and stop me. He will always say it's not my time to go yet, and that just makes me cry even harder. Now that I'm 30 and going to be 31 in 2 months, I can still see him in my dreams and sometimes on very sunny days. Until now, I haven't even dated since he left me. I haven't even set eyes on anyone. I will forever love him. I am living my life to the fullest and hoping for that day when I will finally be able to hold him again. As for my father, he's been in the head since I told him I forgave him. It is said that God made one person on earth to be yours, and God made mine and took him too early. There's a song that made me think of him. Every time I listen to it, it makes me miss him so much. I miss being able to hold him and kiss him. Seeing him still makes my heart bright, but until then, only dreams can make it possible for me to feel his touch.